Today I'm going to show you how I made a monitor arm. Yes, things I could buy on Amazon, but I have a fabrication shop, so I just went over and I threw together this thing here. This is a monitor arm for my video production setup here. It's made out of 1¼ and 1" tubing and some sheet metal. I welded it together. I modeled it in Fusion. I exported a DXF file, used my plasma table to cut these tabs. Also cut these plates. I welded it all together, painted it black, and now I have a monitor arm for my video setup. And what this is going to let me do is replace this monitor over here, which I can't see because it's too small. You know, the text on it's too small, and I can replace it with a real 27-inch 1080p monitor. So I'm going to show you how I made this. And we're going to put it on the wall and come back and show you what it looks like when it's done. Alright, well here's my Langmuir Systems Crossfire Pro, and I'm going to cut out all these plates. So I have 4 pieces to cut. I have the plate that screws into the wall, and then I have the monitor plate, which is a Visa 100 by 100 millimeter plate, and then I have the 2 tabs that make my swivel arm. And I'm using probably, I don't know, 18 gauge maybe? 16 gauge, I don't know, some piece that I had over in the shop. The monitor doesn't weigh that much, so it doesn't really matter what these thicknesses are. And I just pulled them out. Dried them off. And I'm using this magnetic chuck. And I'm blasting off the dross with a wire wheel. And this works really well. If you're doing any kind of small parts like this magnetic chuck is a real time saver. And then I'm just using a flappy disc and cleaning up, getting ready for welding. And we have this really nice saw over at the shop that cuts through this square tubing like nothing. It's a slow speed, it's got coolant on it, and you just put it in there, and it's got hydraulic clamp, vise to hold the piece in place, and that's pretty much how you cut that stuff. So I have these 2 pieces cut, and now I'm just doing the prep work for welding with a flappy disc. I also have this mill over there. I use it as opposed to a drill press just because it's easier to clamp things. It's much safer to use, and it works great. So the first thing I'm going to do is put in a little pilot hole, and the mill needs to be honed before you can use a jog wheel. I know many of you out there are saying, why don't you just use a regular hand drill and just be done with it? When you have something like this available and it's easy to turn on and use, I just use this instead. So I put the drill in, and couldn't find any oil over there, so I just dry drilled this. Made sure I took my time and peck drilled it. And now I'm going to get ready for welding. So I put the tabs onto the arm that extends out from the wall. And I have this plate that comes in at an angle. So I need something to hold that arm in the right spot. It's marking the center of that plate. And I'm using one of these Strongarm magnetic mounts for welding to hold it at the right angle so that both my little tabs, which are different lengths, which gives me the angle so I can get it on there, and then I just kind of eye it in the center. Make sure it's square. And I'm tacking it on here. And I'm using a Everlast Power MTS for this welding. I'm just using a MIG welder for this. It's little projects like this that kind of improve your skills. I know it's kind of silly to just buy a monitor arm for $30, but I had all the supplies in the shop, and I just like putting together things like this on, you know, this took maybe 2 hours, 2 or 3 hours to do, and it's something that helped me improve my welding, actually. And here I'm using one of these magnetic right angles that I got at Harbor Freight. This plate could have been a little bit bigger, because one of those welds that you run along the alongside, you're actually pretty good chance you're going to blow out the edge, but I was able to do it fast enough to not have that happen. So we're just going to try it out, you know, we're just going to give it a little, yeah, it looks good. So I got some acetone, and I wiped it down, these pieces with acetone. Then I took it outside, it was a nice day, and I spray painted them black. And mounted the plate on the back of the monitor. This is just a monitor we had over the shop. I'm just going to kind of test it over there. You're going to see here in just a minute a little problem that I had, but I was able to find a really pretty inexpensive solution to it. Alright, so I'm just going to try it out here in the shop, see if it's going to work fine. I've just mounted it to the bench here. And it turns out I'm using 1-inch square tubing into 1 1/4 inch square tubing, and it has a little bit of play in it, and that makes the monitor come in at an angle. So I need to find some way to just shove a shim into there so it works fine. So I had coins in my pocket, and hoping it was going to be a 1-cent solution, but it turned out it needed to be a 25-cent solution. Alright, well, it was kind of painless to put the monitor arm on the wall. Just had a stud finder and found it, screwed it in, mounted the monitor, rerouted the HDMI cables, and now I have a monitor up here above my main monitor. For those of you who have made it this far, the way I do my either teleconferencing or video production is I have a Blackmagic ATEM Mini over here on the bench, and it allows me to do streaming as well as act like a USB camera to my computer. So when I go into Zoom or Teams or whatever, I just use that as my webcam. And then what that enables me to do is I can select between whatever I have running in on the 4 HDMI inputs. So typically I have this camera here. This is a Sony Alpha camera behind this teleprompter, and then this display up here. This is the Blackmagic multi-view display. And this is like my control center, so it shows me what's on every camera, and then I can select between which one goes out over the USB cable. And then up here, whatever is on this monitor comes out of my computer, but it goes through an HDMI splitter, and one of the outputs goes to this monitor, the other output goes into the ATEM Mini on channel number 4. So I can switch between my Alpha camera and whatever's on this monitor up here, and I could also switch to cameras that are over here on my bench as well. So anyway, if you made it this far, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.